How has social media been for you, and what's your relationship with it?
I, at the beginning, really resented the fact that I had to be sharing my process and everything on here. And then I had totally an epiphany. It'll always be, I'll always feel like I need to be validated by how things perform to some degree. I don't think you can ever really let go of that. I've tried very hard. If you don't put up a facade and you just learn to get comfortable with sharing. I feel like when I'm doing a painting, I want to show everyone how I'm doing this. It's an inner desire to share. Every single job has got a side to it that the person is going to dislike. And if that's the worst that I have to deal with, I'm living a pretty happy life.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, Lily, you're 22 years old. You are living as a full-time artist, based out of Australia, and you do these. You're doing a retreat. You're taking people to Bali. You're doing these practically living a life that every artist desires at 22, which is not as easy as it may seem for specifically for artists, let's say. First, let me ask you about what do you think has been your biggest strength, the biggest advantage that has helped you to come here, to come this at this point?
Okay, so I think my own personal biggest strength would be that I'm already a very motivated person. Maybe I feel like I was literally born with good discipline. So that would mean that if I set a goal, I'm very I really, in my mind, I have to do what I said I would do for my own mental sanity. And I think if you don't have that drive to do what you say you will do, it's very hard to do this job. There's so many times where I've wanted to give up because things have been really hard, but then I haven't because of the discipline, and it pushed me through to success.
Right. Yeah. And I saw one of your reels that you recently made, which was how you accidentally started an art business. Can you talk a little bit more about that and, what was that reel about?
Sure. So it really was an accident. I grew up my whole life with people telling me you can't be an artist because you won't make money. And I would be like, okay, yeah, that's really logical, because I had no idea, obviously, about social media at that time. So I never went through school for even 1 second thinking I would like to finish school and become an artist. It wasn't even a consideration. I wanted to study science and have some
Wow,
job in
science.
science. Yes. So I finished school. I got a good enough score for science. I went into that at university, and just as I was about to begin, lockdown happened. So from the very start of my university, I was doing it online. It was literally the most horrible thing ever. It made me miserable. There was no one to talk to, no one to help, limited learning material, all for the same price as well. They didn't discount the fees.
Yeah. Oh God.
After a year, I just felt like I sat there and thought, how do I feel about going back and doing this next year? And I literally felt sick, and I was like, maybe it's time that I stop doing this, because obviously something is wrong. I could just feel like something wasn't right. Little did I know what my gut was probably trying to tell me. So I just trusted that feeling and literally dropped out a day after I had that thought. The day after, I didn't spend weeks considering it. I just was like, this is not happening.
You don't feel this is right.
Exactly. So then I was also working full-time in accounting just as my job to earn money so I could support myself living in the city.
Let me put this clear. You were pursuing science, then you were working in accounting, and then you got into the arts.
Yes. I was in the accounting firm as an administrator, just because I needed a job and I wanted to stop working in hospitality. So that was in my mind a step up, and it was just a stable 9 to 5. And I could do my university part-time kind of around that. So obviously I was really burning the candle at both ends to be doing
Yes.
that. I was
Yes.
really tired all the time, and obviously the uni didn't bring me joy, and accounting is not renowned for its
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
It's actually quite boring. So I know that I knew that I didn't want to do accounting as my career. It was just to make money. And so when I dropped out of uni, because I was doing uni and working, I had no time for anything creative, nor did I have the energy. And I was also, I think, quite depressed doing those two things at the same time with no creativity involved. So when I quit and I was just working, I just thought, I can go back to uni later if I feel like it's the right thing, whether it be doing science again or something else, but I don't feel like now is the right time. So I didn't really have a goal or a direction in my life for literally the first time, like as long as I can remember, like even from being a very small child, my parents would say that I would go around saying I was going to be a doctor when I grew up. Have had some idea of what I would be doing with my life because I have so many interests. I think that was why. And so, yeah, it was the first time in my life where I was like, oh my God, what am I meant to do? Like, I have a lot of life to go and I have no idea. So I was like, I think I got pretty depressed and anxious in that period of time. So I thought, you know, this is horrible. I need to do something about it. So maybe I should pick up painting again just so that I have something that I like doing. So I did. So I thought, since I've got all this extra time, maybe I should set a goal and just stick to it and see how it goes. I said, I'll paint one painting every single day. And because I was disciplined, I literally did exactly that. No matter how tired I was coming home from work, with my brain drained of life and energy, I still would force myself to do one painting. But like once I started, it did not feel forced. That's the thing about it. That was like trying to tell
Once you
me
show up,
something.
yeah,
Yes. So I still really enjoyed that even when I was tired. And to hold myself like quite accountable for what I said I would do, I like changed my personal Instagram account to my art Instagram account. So it used to just be where I would post my general life for my family and friends. So I changed it and then I started sharing, and I started like doing a couple of reels here and there because I knew that's how you would grow, and I wanted,
yeah,
the more eyes, the more accountable you are. Just trying to make sure there was no possibility for me to back out of what I was doing. And after a while, like people started asking, "Can I buy this?" And I would be like, "Sure, why not? Here you go." Super cheap as well, just because it was for fun. And then after I started growing on Instagram, like I had quite a bit of demand for what I was doing, and I just thought logically, I can I can probably set up a website now so that people don't even have to ask me if they can buy something, because I feel like if people don't have to chase you down and ask you to buy something, they're probably more likely to buy it.
yeah,
So I set up a website, and with that came a lot more sales. So I was like working and doing this, and after a while, I sort of was like looking at how much money I earned in a month from painting, and at the time, it was about 50% of the money that I got from my other job. So I thought, logically, if I took out the other job and spent all that extra time deliberately marketing things and painting more paintings and having more time just to do it, surely I could add on another 50% and make the same. And so at the time, yeah, I didn't for a long time into painting every day think I'm going to start a business from this. I only started having the thought that I could maybe have a business after I had earned like a reasonable amount of money, sort of without too much effort. So
yeah.
it really wasn't. it was never a planned thing. It was very serendipitous. And it, as you said before, it's really snowballed into what it is now.
Yeah. So, what does what how does your art practice business look like right now?
How's it look right now? My art practice is very chill, actually, because I have all this time for all the different tasks I have to do. Like, it's usually, I sort of reserve maybe 1 day a week for admin completely and take care of it all. I reserve maybe 1 day a week for packaging things and like organizing prints and everything. And the rest I spend planning paintings, doing the paintings, also like interacting with people on social media. I kind of do a bit of that every day because I have to, and I like it. And if I feel very tired, I just don't do anything.
You seem very comfortable with social media, Instagram, which is something I think a lot of artists struggle with because
Yes.
I remember watching one of your reels where it was like, you were giving tips on how you feel like a lot of artists feel like um, it is hard to document, record, and all of that. And I would say,
Yeah.
I would actually. I would say I lie myself a little bit here and there in both the areas. But how do you think how has social media been for you? And what's your relationship with it?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I at the beginning really resented the fact that I had to be sharing my process and everything on here, and then I had like totally an epiphany, and I was just like, if there was no social media and I didn't have to do this, it would be literally almost impossible for me to be able to paint full time. Like, I think people get very, very upset because they feel like they're being forced to do it. But when you look at it from a wider perspective, like, not that long ago, you would be starving on the side of the road unless you got your work in with a gallery. Like, this wasn't a possibility before social media, and it's
Yeah.
free to use. And it comes with a giant group of people who love you and just want to see you succeed. Like, I have a really healthy relationship with social media now. I think after I realized that, like, all of the resentment just went away and it was replaced with gratitude because it is a such a powerful tool. Like, a gallery can't make you reach 10 million people in 30 days.
I'm saying that's a wonderful perspective.
It is, and I think there is a lot to be said for mindset. Like, you can look at
Yes.
things from any perspective you want to, and I think if that's possible to actually just change your perspective on things, like, it totally makes everything so much easier. Like, everything seems really positive in my eyes in terms of social media. Like, I mean, there are times where like it can get a little bit draining having to be on the phone all the time and everything, but
Yes.
I just like, and you do have to be like part of the like catch is you kind of have to be eternally present to have like a fully successful business. But that's not the worst thing because like you're just being present to people who value you and want to support you. Like, the actual
Yeah.
emotional positivity that comes from that, having that group, it's invaluable. It really is. Um, so yeah, like there are of course times, as I said, where I just feel quite tired and I just make a point to take a day off it, and then I feel better the next day because I come back and everyone's like left me really cute messages and comments, and it just makes me want to cry every time I think about
Yeah.
it, to be honest.
But tell me something. I think this is something I really want to ask people like of your age and I think the biggest advantage, even though like I'm very friendly and I'm like, internet came in front of us, we've been an early adopters, but I think the Gen Z has a very different vibe and energy towards a lot of things. I think you guys are a lot more hands-on and a lot more like I think something that I personally feel as an obstruction a lot of times is I really want to be present in my mind in my work. And I'm very intuitive, and I sometimes I'm just I'm roaming around in the studio and I pick up things, and then I'm trying to experiment, and I don't want to record because where you put your mind is like, where it focuses. And I think this is a constant strive where, I also remember you writing in one of your posts, like performance. Um, Even though as artists, like performance has always been part of artist life in different forms. Even us as visual artists, when you're doing a show, you're staging things, and but when you're in the studio, it's mostly like it's a real world. It's way less performance like that, unless you choose to have it in your creative process. But with the intake of social media, there's this this exhaustion of making things look like a certain way. Um, you know, also with social media, there's a constant pressure of like, oh, your art needs to look beautiful. It needs to be shot in this way, or you have to edit it in this way, and there's a whole ball different game, like whole different game. Do you have these thoughts, or is it just I really want to understand that. I think people from different age groups react and respond to things differently, and we all can like learn from each other. So I really want to see how you deal with it and how you befriend this idea.
Yeah, so there are times where I think, I can't be bothered filming this. Like, I just want to paint it. And sometimes I just do that. Sometimes I don't film it and I'll just post a photo of it when it's done. I don't feel pressure to make everything look perfect.
But you have wonderful photos, you have a wonderful feed.
Yeah, I do try to keep it to my own personal high standards, but I also don't feel like I have to do that. It's because I want to do it. So I don't feel like, oh, I'm being forced to do this or my account will die. Like, I don't feel that, because I know that the reason I'm here is because I've been very, very transparent with everyone, very authentic. Like, it's my main value in this whole art business is to be as transparent as possible, which includes when things don't turn out right, or they
Yeah,
look bad, in my opinion, or I'm sort of
yeah.
embarrassed of it. Like, I'll just share it anyway. And people really, really respond to that because it
Hmm.
makes me actually seem like a real person, which I am, and less like someone who's just trying to put on a facade the whole time.
Putting up a facade is exhausting. It's a lot of work, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole like point. Like, if you don't put up a facade and you just learn to get comfortable with sharing, which doesn't take long after you try it the first few times because there's always such a positive response to it. So if you're not putting up a facade, you don't get the same exhaustion of stuff. And like, if you can just be chill and transparent and authentic, like, I feel like filming things doesn't feel as forced. I feel like when I'm doing a painting, like, I want to show everyone how I'm doing this. Like, it's an inner desire to share rather than I have to share.
Yeah,
Sometimes I feel like I have to share when I'm burnt out and tired, but on the whole, I just want to share with people. So it doesn't feel to me like a chore. Um, and I kind of like to look at it like, I'm going to do thousands of paintings probably in my lifetime. And I think it is such a special thing to be able to look back at a video of what you went through to create each
yeah,
piece. Like,
I
I
saw
like to
that.
make my big paintings videos quite like cinematic. And it makes me smile so much putting them together and like having nice music with it. Like, I love watching them. So
Yeah,
it's also, I think it's important to do some soul searching and try to sort of turn it into something positive for you as well, instead of
yeah,
just a huge chore. But yeah, I do get what you were saying about like just wanting to be putting your mind into the painting. And when I have that feeling, because it's not all the time, as I said,
yeah,
when I do have that feeling, I just do that and I just share a photo. But yeah, I mean, like, there are sort of, certain standards that you kind of have to comply to when making content and sharing images, like with editing them and making sure they look clean and nice, just to satisfy the algorithm and everything. But like, you don't have to do that every single time, if that makes sense. So if you
yeah,
feel
absolutely.
overwhelmed with that, just take a break and just do what you can until you feel like you can manage it again.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about, I think, not only in the sense of social media, but so you don't come from an art school, if I'm
No,
right.
not at
Yes.
all.
And you put yourself through learning the business side of being an artist, but also the creative side of being an artist. And I think technically your work looks um, beautiful, and it's
Thank you.
you're very good with your own techniques and your own skill. Let's talk a little bit about the process of how you have evolved yourself into that.
It was definitely a learning process, that's for sure, because as I said, when I started this, I had no intention of even doing it until it was like right in front of my face. So I didn't have any real business training or anything like that. I sort of had to figure the things out the hard way. But I will say this, because when I was starting to share, I wasn't thinking I'm trying to sell this. I just
Yeah.
came across as very real. I shared my personal life and like other things because I mean I just changed it from a personal account to an art account, so I still had the lingering I want to share
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
random parts of me, not just the art. And it was mostly my friends and family in the beginning anyway, so it wasn't like something I was scared to really do. It just so happens that doing that exact thing is the best way to sell your art, which is
Yeah.
why the sales were coming to me without me understanding why. It was because I was just not being like, please buy my work. I'm selling this. Like, I didn't make that the top, like the top thing that people would take away from my whole vibe in my account by accident. So
Yeah.
that is, I think, the part that a lot of artists do struggle with, because a lot of the time they're like, I'm going to start an Instagram account to sell my art. So the first
Yeah.
thing they do is, please buy my art. And they forget about the whole rest of what's important with art sales, which is transparency, authenticity, and actually coming across as like a fully rounded person. Um,
Yeah.
so I already had that kind of down pat at the start by accident, just pure luck, because of the way things unfolded. So there were other things, obviously, that I really had to learn with the business side, like just managing orders.
Pricing yourself as an artist. One of the most common questions people, oh, what to sell, at what to sell, and how to sell, and finding collectors. And like, how did you find all of these answers for yourself then?
Like a lot of it was getting help from people in the art community. Like there were times where I was sitting there thinking, like, man, do I really have to learn this? Like, what even is going on here? I don't even know what I'm reading.
What did you hate the most?
Website building. Yeah. So when that started, like when I knew I should get one, my partner and I tried to do it the cheapest possible way. Like you can always pay extra for different services that make it easier, and we tried to do it the cheapest way. Oh, I wish I could tell early Lily to not be a cheap ass and just pay a little extra for your own like sanity. And so we put together the website. It took months, like literally like
Yeah.
2 months of me having mental
Oh,
breakdowns every time I tried to do it.
yeah.
And then
I can
I
get
made
that.
friends. I made friends with a woman called Victoria, who is the artist behind the account Very Very Draws. Do you know her
Okay.
account? She's a digital artist, so she's like my Instagram BFF. And she goes on there and she comes back and she's like, "Oh, babe, this website is owned by a Russian landscape painter who's like 70 years old." And I was like,
Oh
it's
my God.
true. She's like, let me just go in there and I'll fix that for you. So they did,
Oh,
and they just spiffed it up into the beautiful little website that it is today, which I love so much. Like, and that's just from, again, just interacting with people,
yes.
making a
Yes.
friend, and she loves me so much that she wanted to help me like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
I,
she has helped me with not only the website, she's done all of my branding for me,
oh, oh, wow.
literally to perfection. I could not imagine branding that I would like more than what she has done for me.
Uh,
She wouldn't even let me pay her, which I was very
oh,
upset about. But just out of the goodness of her heart, she did all this stuff for me, and she was just a stranger that I met on Instagram. Like, yeah. So
that's so nice.
it was a hard learning process with all of the different business related aspects of it, but it would have been so much harder without the art community.
How about what was the response and is the response of people close to you, your family, your friends, the idea of being an artist, and what's even more stranger. I really want to hear this. Let's say,
Yeah.
when people start off, they're very very scared of, oh my god, what my friends are going to think about, and
Oh yeah.
specifically, I think posting on social media. Oh, are they going to judge me, are they going to make fun of me, and like, or am I trying to be an influencer, am I trying to be an artist, or who, like, all of these questions that really like scare people off,
Yes.
because it is hard to put yourself out there, and you are scared of people who and what you like, what they think of you, specifically if you feel like they're, you don't have the support. What was the scenario for you?
Yeah. So um it definitely came as a shock to everyone, I think, when I was like, yo, I'm dropping out of my life dream goal of being a scientist. And because it wasn't like drop out, I want to be an artist. It was like drop out, nothing. I'm going to be an
Yeah,
artist, like,
yeah,
like
it
that.
is.
So
Yeah.
it was definitely a shock. I think everyone just thought, I was just doing it for fun, which I was. And then I wasn't.
Mm.
But I still am doing it for fun, just FYI. But they didn't. I don't think they ever would have guessed that I would have done this because of the fact, like, my whole family has always said, don't be an artist as a job
Oh
because you'll be
my.
broke. Like they weren't rude or mean about it. Like, it was
Yeah.
encouraging. They were just trying to make sure that I didn't have my heart set on a job that they believed
Job.
was
That's
impossible. And like, they're not the only ones. Like, literally everyone who has
yeah.
no idea about the power of social media thinks that, because that's how it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I don't know, I didn't feel afraid to tell them because my family, although they have their opinions on things, including this in the beginning, every time I've said I'm gonna do this, they've always supported me,
Support.
no matter what it was. Seriously, I called my mum and I was like, Mum, I'm dropping out of uni. I can't do this. I hate it. And she's like, we trust you.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do, you do it. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that was easy. So, like, I saw that response. Like, I just said, I'm going to do this full time because I can't be working at this accounting firm anymore. And I'm already, making pretty reasonable money. Like, just threw the money part in there real quick just to remind them, I'm actually not going to be broke. And they were like, okay, kid, just do your best and see how it goes. So I
Yeah.
didn't really have any worries telling them that, and I also didn't really care what my friends thought. I have always been someone who has a lot of belief in herself. Like, I always think, I can do this, whatever it is. If I have to do it, I'll do it. Like, and I know I can if I really want it bad enough. Um, So I really didn't care what anyone thought because I knew in my heart of hearts that I would make it work and
Yeah.
everyone regret judging me.
I love this. I think you have a very interesting and a very positive way of spinning things in favor of you so that you can, I think sometimes you have to trick your mind, sometimes you have to train your mind to think and react and, behave in a certain way. I think I can see that that you're not only hardworking, but you really also put that effort in reframing those thoughts for yourself.
It's like one of the most important things. You have to be able to reframe how you think about certain things because, like, even though it's a very fun job, there are times that are super stressful. Like, the whole thing is running social media. Like,
Oh, social media is hell of a stress.
oh, it is. It is. Like, even though, like, I've got a really great, big, supportive audience, like, if someone leaves me a mean comment, like, it hurts my feelings and I feel, like, sad for a day. And so I think it's really important to just be able to come back to the fact that there's like almost 150,000 people who love everything I ever do, and one person who wants to be.
How do you think social media and the validations that social media brings has impacted all of us? How do you how do you react to this idea of feeling validated by social media, and
Yeah.
how do you also try to balance that constant validation we get instantly the moment you post something, share something, and how does it impact your own work as well?
So that's a really good question. And it has been probably one of the hardest things to get around in this job, like literally one of the hardest, because like if you think about it, it's kind of logical, but it's also kind of not. Like my whole income rests on my content performing relatively well. So when
Yeah,
I
that's
say it's been a month of less sales, just because sometimes people aren't in the mood to buy art at that time, like if everything is not performing well, it all builds up into this, oh my god, my business is going to fail, what am I going to do, like
yeah,
I can't control this, like I'm doing my best, and then
yeah,
it ends up being a big old crying session. So I'm still trying to really accept in my mind that it's always going to get better, because I'm not even kidding, every single time I have had a mental breakdown over this exact thing, as soon as I stop crying and go and just make a reel, it always does well, like really well. It's like a consensus that I've gotten over the depression and gone back up again. And it's like, okay, yes, let's go. And it pushes me up with it. So it's super important to always remember that things will always turn around if you keep showing up. And it's really, really hard to have that thought in the moment while you're in the middle of the suffering, you know? So I
yeah,
don't know if there is a real solution to this other than just time and experience and practice, because it really does feel bad sometimes, and there is definitely some work to be done in terms of not having to feel validated by how things are performing. Yeah, it's probably one of my biggest struggles. But that
yeah.
being said, it doesn't impact me so frequently and so much that I can't do this. Like, I absolutely can. I've got so much energy left for this job. It's so fun. I can do pretty much whatever I want. I don't have to answer to a toxic boss. Like, I can be coated in my cats all day if I wanted to. Like, if that is the bad side of things, that's just
You're okay
normal.
with it?
I am
Yeah,
okay with it. Like
everything
every job, every single
will
job
have.
has got a side to it that the person is going to
Mhm.
dislike. And if
Yeah,
that's the worst that I have to deal with, I'm living a pretty happy life, honestly.
yeah,
It's only sometimes, and I think that's very normal.
yeah.
So
I love
yeah,
that.
it's just going to be a practice thing. Like I feel like because my sales rest on things performing relatively well, it will always be something that I feel like I have to, like it'll always be, I'll always feel like I need to be validated by how
Yeah.
things perform to some degree. I don't think you can ever really let go of that. Like I've tried very hard.
I think social media is wired that way. I
It
think
is.
social media is
It
wired
is.
that way because it's very hard to escape. And I think that is, I think what you said, and I think I have always repetitively said the same thing that I think social media gave me a beautiful community, Arts to Hearts project, um, connections
Exactly.
that I don't think I would have been made, like, it just wouldn't have been possible. I think
Yeah, exactly.
the only hard thing about social media is um, the way it's built. It's very consuming. It really consumes your mind and soul. And if I think the takeaway of these beautiful relationships that we are able to build and that go be beyond social media today. I have a beautiful community and relationship that I cherish, and
Yeah.
they started off with social media, but they are no longer here. Like, yeah, they've gone way beyond that, and I think I definitely have social media to thank for it. But also,
Yes.
like, I think something that we're all dealing with, how we how we take the advantages, but also not something that takes over so much of who we are that you struggle to, put your pieces together.
And do you know what I think the thing is that can stop that from happening? I think it is the community, because every single time I have had a mental breakdown about performance, I tell one of my friends on Instagram who's probably dealing with exactly the same thing, and we talk about it, and then I feel completely better after just having a conversation. So I think as long as, like, if you're experiencing that a lot and it's starting to feel like you just can't stand to be on the app anymore, just take time to speak to people and just interact and tell people how it's making you feel.
Yeah, also taking time to disconnect. I think that we all need to speak more about. Like, it's okay if you feel overwhelmed. I take huge breaks, and because I spend so much of my time online in the sense of arts to arts, my own practice, working with people. Sometimes it gets a lot, and you have to, like, the need to switch things off and, like, go into the real world. Another question I have: how do you deal with loneliness? Loneliness as an artist, I think.
It is something that I have been thinking about recently, but here's the thing. So I have always been very happy to do things by myself. Like, I do enjoy social events and hanging out with my friend here. I've got one friend here, one in person friend. Um, I do like it, but after a short period of time, I start being like, I can't wait to go home and be in my studio like a little recluse. Like, I think this job really does match my personality, and so I have thought, like, I would love it if I had people around me who I could paint with. And I mean, I'm never really gonna meet them if there are, because I'm always in my studio, in my house, on my phone and with my paints. So if there is, like, people in the area who do like painting, like, I won't ever meet them out and about at anything. I also live quite far out of the CBD, so there's much less sort of gatherings of people, I guess, and less things to do. It's more just like peaceful with no drug addicts type of vibe.
Sounds like a nice place.
It is, it's a grey area. So that is the sort of downside of it. However, it is unbelievable to me how fulfilled I feel just speaking to people online. Like, even though I cannot paint with them in person or really even see them in person, like, even if they're on the opposite side of the world to me, I still feel like that social element of what I would be craving is 100% satisfied. So I don't really feel like intense loneliness, purely because I know that there's 150,000 people or so that I could be speaking to who love art and who love what I do and can talk to me about what I do and what they do, people that I've got common interests with. And, Zoom exists. And I have done Zooms with people. This month I've opened up 10 spots for, like, mentorship on business related things or art theory related stuff. And it has been so refreshing to me to have a Zoom call with these people. It's just been great. Like, I've always extended the time that I've said I would have the call for, just because I'm enjoying having a yabba with everyone. So I feel like I get almost too much social time. It's just not in the same way that other people do it. And I think that it's very important that you can learn to, like, get that fulfillment from social media, if this is the sort of job that you have, because that's kind of like, if you don't already have good friends that you hang out with all the time, like, there's not really any alternative. And these people are still real people, like, they're not like pretend people just because they're online. Like, there's so much to learn about them. There is. I've got so many friends from Instagram.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think the definition of relationships has changed. Um, I think I personally didn't find a lot of people myself when I started my career specifically as an artist, that I felt like I resonated with. And I was very, very grateful. Still, one of the people that I feel closest to, as a business owner, as an artist, as a creator, and all, are people who haven't been able to meet so far yet, because we live in different parts of the world, but we've been speaking, connecting, working together for the past couple of years. And I mean, this is a new way of making relationships, and it is like, I'd rather, you'd rather have uh, a meaningful conversation with someone for a shorter period of time, or who's sitting on other side of the world, than you feel forced to just choose with people who really don't get what you want to talk about, who you are, your ideas, and creativity.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I don't know one person in person who even likes art.
Yeah,
So that, like, my best friend, like, she always asks like how it's going and everything, and like it's always like curious about like how, like, what is happening, and just like what I'm working on and stuff like that. But she doesn't have the same I know what you're talking about sort of vibe. So it's not usually a very long conversation. And I obviously
yeah,
very much appreciate that she even asks. But like, there's something different about having a good art chat with someone who knows exactly what you're talking
yeah.
about.
What
And
you mean?
so,
Yeah,
yeah, I think you're right about relationship, the definition of it just changing with the introduction of social media. It's so cool. You can just connect with anyone
yeah.
anywhere in the world, speaking to them live.
Yeah, I mean,
You have
this
so many more
podcast is
friends.
an outcome of social media, internet, and I think it's such a powerful tool if you use it in a balanced and more, like, being more aware. I think where we lost momentum in the sense of our mental health was, I think, overdue of anything is harmful. It's just not social media; it's anything. So as
Yeah,
long as we understand who we are and we're trying to balance it off with what our life need to look like, I think we can all find our ways.
yeah, exactly right. No, I totally agree with you there. It is very important to be just generally aware of the role that social media plays in your life. Like, I think it's different maybe for people who just browse social media as an entertainment source than it is for someone who runs their whole livelihood on it. Like, you just have to be aware of the role that it serves. So like, if I didn't run a business and I was on my phone this much on social media, I think I would be very
Wouldn't it be?
mentally not cool because I'm on it literally that much. But because I have a business and I get to interact with people who support my business, it sort of takes on a different form in my mind.
Thank you so much, Lily. Thank you so much. I have a little fun segment, which is a little rapid fire. So, are you ready?
All right, I'm doing it. Go for it.
Here we go. Creativity or perfectionism, which is more important to you in your practice?
Creativity.
Early morning or late night, which is your preferred time for creating?
For painting, neither. I'm in the middle of the day sort of person, but if I had to choose, I would probably say late at night.
Okay, you're middle of the day because of where you live.
I get up at 9 on the dot. I don't get up any earlier than that. I wish I could. I really wish I was a morning person, and I wish I felt like painting in the morning, but instead I feel dead. So can't paint obviously when I feel that way. I usually get my energy at night.
Okay, music or silence? What kind of atmosphere do you like when you're painting?
Music, yeah, blasting music. Like, I like sort of lo-fi type of things, maybe indie or alternative music. I also love music from the 50s, like the
Oh,
old style. I put it on my stories a lot. I think it goes really well. I love that. Love it. 80s music, I also love. Like, I love a lot of music. It's kind of hard to pick favorites.
what was the best piece of advice you have been given by another artist?
Oh, that's such a hard rapid fire question. The best piece of advice. Probably the best piece of advice was actually being told about how authenticity relates to art sales. Like, as I said, I was doing it by accident, but I had no idea why. I was getting art sales. And so for me to be told that that was the reason why and explaining why it works that way, I think knowing that was a huge game changer so that I would understand better how to create the content that I needed to create and grow without just sort of accidentally doing it sometimes. Like, I can then know exactly what I have to do. And the clarity was just like a game changer.
What has been your biggest struggle so far?
My biggest struggle so far, it was probably trying to build the website. It was honestly like I can't think of something worse. It's always the first thing that pops into my head. I hated it that much. It was so hard.
Fair enough. Okay. How do you keep up with creative blocks?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm very quick to recognize when I'm getting a creative block and I just do nothing. And then I go out somewhere, like on a walk, or I sometimes take like a day off in the month to go somewhere really pretty and just suck up the inspiration. And I think if you can identify when the block is coming on, it's a sign that you need to stop and take time to absorb inspiration, because it's really like a 50-50 thing, like 50% creative output, 50% creative input. And I think everyone at some point neglects the creative input part. So I like to try to prevent creative block for a long time at least by being very conscious all the time of all of the cute stuff happening everywhere. Like right now I'm looking out the window and the sun just looks really cute on everything and I'm just sucking it in while I'm talking to you. Like the smell of coffee or something, my cat's doing cute stuff, like eating delicious cake. Like all of those things make me go, oh, I have to paint something. So I don't get creative block very much because I think I'm very conscious about letting there be time for creative input.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lily. Thank you so much for your time. Can you let us know where people can, find you, connect with you, and if you have anything coming up that we can support you with?
Sure. Well, I mean, the most obvious place to find me is Instagram because that will always be my favorite platform for sharing art. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't like TikTok very much. I think it's a very vicious place in comparison to the Instagram art community. So I don't post on there as frequently. So anyone who wants very frequent updates, like every single day, every minute of every day, is Instagram. And obviously, you can check out my website as well, which is in my Instagram bio. And things that are coming up would be my Bali trip, which is going to be in October in the first week, where and I still have quite a few like spots open to people. And we're going to basically go there and have a giant group holiday and paint together. And I'll have a certain amount of like stuff to teach, and we'll do painting together. Can't wait. It's literally like the coolest thing I've ever heard of in my whole life. I'm so excited.
I think that's quite an interesting project in itself.
It's going to be quite excellent, I think. All of the like activities that we're going to be doing there are all art related things in terms of Bolognese culture. So like traditional fabric dyeing, and like speaking to a local artist and like having a traditional Bolognese tattoo experience, like really cool stuff. This is going to be too cool. Too cool. Can't believe it's real.
I wish you the best and I hope you have a fantastic time. And I hope anyone who's listening to this episode who likes this, who wants to connect further, I recommend you looking at the details of the trip and connect with Lily further. And thank you so much, Lily. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.